Welcome back to another episode of Miami Talks Real Estate. I am Siobhan White.
And I am Dennis Hiller, and our guest today is the one and only Brian Holtzhauer, who is the VP Market Manager at First American Bank, a privately held full-service bank headquartered in Chicago, but with a strong presence here in Miami, $5.5 billion in assets with a B. Prior to First American Bank, Brian has had extensive banking experience in all sorts of other prestigious companies. If this is your first time tuning in, do subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and this show is a project of Siobhan White, president of EWP Management. Brian, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. Glad to be
Thank you
here.
for being our guest.
Thank you.
To kick things off, before we jump into real estate lending and other business topics, can you tell us a little about yourself and your family?
Sure. I'm actually originally from Maryland. Moved here about 20 years ago. Really came down here because of family. My sister had moved down here a few years before me, and then my brother, and then myself. So I love it here. The culture, entertainment. I think Miami's like completely different than any other city, really, because
Any other state?
Or state,
In
yes.
general, Miami, throughout the state of Florida, Miami's like, you know, number one, right?
I feel
Weather-wise, especially.
the weather. You can't beat it. We have the beach here. You know, we have Brickell, which is completely different than like Coconut Grove, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coconut Grove is kind of like that leafy, cool vibe type of area. You know, Brickell's like the financial area of Miami, and then you have the Gables, and then, you know, every other little pocket.
How long have you been out here?
I've been here for about 20 years now.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
you're basically a local.
Pretty much.
Before we started recording, you mentioned you have a daughter who's a year and 7 months, right?
Yeah, 17 months.
Oh,
yeah.
17 months, jeez. How's being a dad changed your life?
It's completely changed my life. I often kind of think, like, what was I doing before this? Like, how did I occupy my time? Because, you know,
Because your time was for you, so it went by very fast.
it's not for me anymore. I mean,
No.
I look forward to it, seeing her every day. I feel like you also mature a lot when you have a child.
Getting into the lending world, I have to ask, how is working for all of our real estate investors and other folks, how's working with a regional or community bank different from, let's say, Chase or whatever the case may be?
The bigger banks, the bigger banks are great. I feel that working at a small bank, like a community bank, I feel like we're more of like a super community bank because we're bigger than some of the smaller banks, but we're not like the size of a huge national bank. But I feel that we have that personal touch, that we deal with clients directly. I mean, I've had clients text me, call me. We want the whole relationship, you know. We want to be able to help you grow and get to the next level, whether you're just starting out a business and, you know, you need a little business checking account, or you want to grow it and buy a commercial property or buy a primary residence for yourself, and wealth management. We have that as well.
You're a VP Market Manager over there. What does that mean? What do you do?
Don't forget the VP. No, I'm kidding. Market manager, it sounds like a marketing role. It's more of being in charge of a market. I'm located in downtown. That's where my office is. And basically I'm in charge, that's my territory. You know, where a lot of clients that we have in the area bank, and that's where I tend to try to get most of my business from.
The downtown Brickell area?
Correct.
Yeah, he's on Flagler, right in the middle of downtown. Actually, right where they're doing that little construction there on Flagler, right? Or still
crazy.
doing it, right?
Yeah.
It must make it hard to get around down there.
Yeah, they've blocked off our part of Flagler, so it's been a little bit more difficult in that area, but we make it work.
What are they building over there?
They're just basically redeveloping the street. They're in a Moshe Mana, which is a big-time developer. He's making a lot of changes, so they're putting in a lot of money, and hopefully in the next 5-7 years, it's going to be completely different.
Which lending products does First American Bank offer real estate folks?
So we actually have a wide range of products. Before First American Bank, it was Continental National Bank down here. That's who I was with, and we were bought out by First American. And with Continental, we dealt with a lot of construction loans, which I don't think a lot of banks handle. We got into that. We have a great product, our home equity line of credit product. If you're looking at doing a credit line on your primary residence or second home, we have just a wide range. I mean, home equity loan, that's like a second mortgage. SBA, we're SBA preferred lender. Basically, we work directly with the SBA, and I think that the process ends up being a bit smoother when you're dealing with a bank that handles SBA loans, whereas you can go with a broker or you can go with directly to the SBA, I believe.
You mentioned construction loan.
Construction loan, basically, if you're seeking to buy a primary residence for yourself and you're planning on starting with buying, you find a piece of land that you want to acquire and then go from there. Usually banks will do like 70 to 75% of the completion value. I mean, it changes with the situation, depending if you're going to be reselling it, if you're going to be living there, or if you're planning on renting it out.
And, it's a large part of the business at the bank, these new construction loans.
I wouldn't say it's a large part. I mean, I felt like with Continental, it was a bit more, but I think that also maybe the market's kind of changed too.
Right.
But it is something that we are able to take a look at and, see if it's something that we could do. And of course, if it makes sense to the bank.
Siobhan, what's your experience been like working with Brian?
I mean, it's been wonderful. And mainly because it's nice to have someone to go to at the bank. Not usually the case. You call a 800 number, you get a representative. You have to talk them through everything that you need or whatever. I feel like at First American, and specifically with Brian, that we have more of a personal relationship.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I feel like he already knows what I'm doing. And when I was a manager for Bragi Sigurdsson, when he was with Douglas Elliman, I handled the bank accounts, and Brian is the one I dealt with those. So it's always been a pleasure. I have all my accounts with him as well.
And I think I kind of enjoy that, just having that relationship with clients and being able to really see them grow.
It's not like your typical Bank of America experience where you walk into a lobby and
exactly
make a deposit. It's more personalized than that. And I feel like if you're, especially as a small business,
100%.
It's a great place to go instead of these large banks, because you get personal service.
I think some of the, well, at least one bank I can think of, I won't mention them, but they're not doing investment real estate for commercial properties, like for apartment buildings. It has to be owner occupied. Whereas we do handle that. So I think we do offer some other things.
So you give construction loans on multi-family buildings as non-primary, but for investment.
Correct.
That's a good thing to know, people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First
there's so
American
much
Bank.
redevelopment happening in Miami right now.
Oh yeah, and with the huge flux in the Airbnbs and stuff like that, everybody is trying to buy a property so that they can rent them out.
Yeah, it was actually on the way over here. I kind of started getting over this area a little early, so I decided to just go a little north on 2nd Avenue, and it was amazing how much it's actually changed.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
When it used to be a really bad neighborhood. What do they call it now? Buena Vista?
They make it sound really nice, right?
Buena Vista.
Design district.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
It used to be the hood.
Yeah, it's amazing how things change, and and I think that's what's so great about Miami is we have those completely different areas that's forever changing.
What do you see happening in 5 years?
I think it's just going to keep on going. I mean, I think that even I think during COVID, we started seeing a bit more people moving down here, right?
So with the recent mortgage price rates increasing, do you still get a lot of requests for loans?
We're seeing a bit of a slowdown, I feel,
Yeah.
for a bit, but then it seems like things just picked right back up. So with First American, if you're doing like a home equity line of credit, that's something that I would process. But if it's a purchase or a refi, I have like a partner that we basically work with. So we refer business over, and of course we work directly with them to make sure that,
But it's all
we're
through
able-
First American.
It's through First American Bank.
Okay.
Correct.
What advice would you give to someone looking to make a commercial investment or redevelopment, getting into the commercial side of things?
I would say just do it. I mean, if that's your goal and that's your plan, I would say just do it. Make sure you save up enough money to be able to put for like a down payment.
And what does that typically look like on something like that?
Usually something like that would be about 25 to 30%.
Yeah.
You have to make sure the numbers work, of course, with the cash flow and everything. But I would say you have to take the risk and just do it. I actually have a friend of mine that's been a client of mine for like over 10 years, and he's been in the real estate industry as far as like remodelation and things like that. And he came to me and he had like a plan of buying one property per year. It started a few years ago, and he's bought single family home for the most part
He
every
converted
year.
them?
What's that?
Did he convert them or did
No.
he keep them?
This is just him buying as an investment property, and this year he's had a plan to develop an apartment building. So it's pretty cool to see, somebody that you just start with and grow. I mean, from buying, small house.
No,
and
that's
then-
amazing. But that's one of the advantages
Yeah.
to the small bank that
And-
you know this. You know the
Exactly.
resume of your clients. It's
And
pretty
on top of that, he
impressive.
did it. You know what I mean? It just goes back to
Yeah.
like he had a plan. He decided to do it. I think that we, in life, I think a lot of times we fail, or just a lot of times, we're just scared to take the risk on things, and you just have to do it. Of course, calculated risk. Of course, you want to make sure that you're getting into the right investment. You want to make sure that you surround yourself with the best people. I think a banker or lender is super important. Somebody, if you don't want to manage the property yourself, of course, a property manager, a good realtor, attorney, because you're going to need those people when you're trying to, expand your portfolio, right? I mean,
It's so interesting to hear you talk about, going for it, because you would think that a banker would say, no, nothing, no risk.
Yeah.
But you're saying, okay, calculated risk.
I feel that way. Absolutely. I've always felt like that. And I've invested in real estate myself too.
Oh, wow.
So, I started at a pretty young age. I think I bought my first property when I was like 20.
Wow.
And it was a friend of mine that was like, hey, I think that we should look at getting a property. And I was like, all right. I think that was back in 2005, 6. Probably not the best time to buy in Miami, right?
Yeah.
But I held on, and now I'm okay with that property. It was nothing big, but
you still have it.
I still have it, yeah. And you want to take that risk, right? And with anything,
Everything
business.
you do is going to be a risk. So you just got to weigh the pros and cons of it.
yeah, absolutely.
I moved here from elsewhere where you don't have a financial system like we do in the U.S.
Is elsewhere a state?
No, elsewhere is Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
You have something, but it's not this. Just being able to leverage and all the things we can do here, it's pretty incredible. You're an experienced leader. What leadership advice can you share with our audience?
A great leader helps motivate their team. You want to help them get to the next level. You want to help them grow their confidence. And, I think that you want to push them too.
It's another thing I wanted to ask you, Brian, is you mentioned the example of that client of yours, who's a friend. How does that banking relationship change when that person is starting out versus 10 years later and they have a track record, essentially?
Well, I mean, starting out, you have to start somewhere. It's important for the bank to understand and know their clients. Starting a relationship with the bank is important, whether you're going to start like a small business account or whatever. You want to be able to have them as your bank and to help you get to the next level. So I think that's important to start at a smaller part, because you want somebody that knows your business, that understands your business, that's looking after you. Mm-hmm. I have clients that, I meet with every few months just to make sure that they're on the right path or they have the right products and services.
Do you guys what states is First American?
It's in Illinois, in Chicago, and then we have Wisconsin and then Florida.
So do you do loans outside of those states?
We do.
Okay.
We'll do a second home. We actually will even do like a home equity line of credit for a second home. But if it becomes like an investment property where you start receiving rental income, then it automatically, it's something that we wouldn't do. But yeah, absolutely.
Siobhan, when you're selling property, managing property for investors, when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I want to find my dream property in Miami, are they already coming to you? Do they have their ducks in a row in terms of finances, or you send them to Brian?
In my experience, at least over the last decade dealing with specifically investment properties, these were people that already had their ducks in a row and money. But when they need to take out a line or open an account to manage these properties, I definitely send them to Brian.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, outside of, you mentioned that First American Bank is strong in commercial. Mm-hmm. So outside of multifamily, what about self-storage? What about the person who wants to buy a lot and build a
parking garage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could look at that. We have a lot of super knowledgeable people at the bank. People that have been here for a long time, and I think with a small bank, we could be creative. The way that we're able to handle the deal, and it's personalized. We're able to work with you, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the team that I work with, and I feel like we're motivated, and we would like to look at the deals.
And what can you tell us about First American Bank in terms of the company, the people, the culture?
It's a great company to work for. I mean, I love it. I feel like we have a great group of people. Well, I feel like with down in South Florida, with all the branches, Hialeah, downtown, Little Havana, Doral, Coral Gables, Westchester, we all kind of work directly together.
I didn't even know you had that many locations.
How did a bank that's on the other end of the country decide we're going to Florida?
So it happened a few years before buying Continental. They just wanted to get a footprint down here in South Florida, and they bought out Bank of Coral Gables. And, ended up going after Continental National Bank. Continental National Bank was the first Cuban-owned bank, established in 1974, I believe. Wow. So it had been around for a long time. And I think that they liked our, the type of loans that we handled. And, we were big into construction and commercial. So it was a good fit for them.
And what was the change like from Continental into First American?
Definitely different. I like it more because I feel like we have a lot more tools here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Continental was a little tight-niched, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
First American was kind of a branch up, if I'm going to play on the words. But my experience has been the same either way because I've been dealing directly with you. So
I'll tell you another unique thing about First American Bank is we're very foreign national friendly, too.
That's interesting, especially in Miami, of course.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is we actually offer lending for foreign nationals that are looking at buying a second home here, an investment property. And
do they have to show some kind of proof of assets?
Usually we get like an accountant letter for the past 2 years, and we'll get bank statements, and we'll have to take a look at the deal. But that's something that we're able to offer. And also, we are able to open accounts for foreigners when they're not even present. And that happened during COVID. I mean, of course, it has to come from a good source,
Right.
you know, like a COI, which is a center of influence, somebody that actually is like approved by the bank and is able to refer us business. But we do like a virtual interview.
Miami's a hub of business for Latin America, among other parts of the world. Is that where most of this is coming from?
Yes, I would say so.
I mean, and do the terms, like, let's say you buy a second home. You're from Colombia. You're buying a second home in Miami. Are the terms drastically different than if you're a resident, or how does that work?
I would feel that the rates are going to be a bit higher.
Okay.
There's also an origination fee that comes in, application fee. But you know, I think that if somebody's seeking to buy a property here, that's what option and what they need, then, you know, we're able to do it. Absolutely.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, it's been so great to have you on the show. This is Miami Talks Real Estate. We appreciate all of you tuning in. Till next time.
Take care, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.